April was my worst reading month I've had in a really long time. These are the 16 books I read while I was severely, devastatingly slumped. I started my month by finishing Medium Raw by Anthony Bourdain, which was his second memoir, published about a decade after his first one, a decade after Kitchen Confidential. It's not as good as Kitchen Confidential, but it is still really interesting. He reflects a lot on his opinion changes and looking back on his life and his headspace that he was in at the time of Kitchen Confidential. He owns up and apologizes for certain opinions. He admits that a lot of his opinions and his perceptions of certain people have changed drastically. The writing of it is so much more chaotic though, and like less structured and nonsensical, and he spends a lot of time ranting about very specific people in a way that feels very excessive. Then, because this is when the reading slump really hit me badly, I tried to read really weird, ridiculous books to get me out of it. So then I read That's More Like It, the sentient s'more erotic romance between a piece of chocolate, a graham cracker, and a marshmallow. And it's whatever. And then I immediately followed it up with Bad Behavior, which is straight up B movie fan fiction. And this was also whatever. Like, usually I'm able to feel passionately and very strongly about certain books like this. Either I hate them or I love them or I'm just like fascinated by them. But I found myself so bored, oddly enough. So then I tried again with Mating with Mallows about the sentient Easter bunny marshmallows that come to life in some woman's microwave. And again, this one, despite being a novella, took me like 2 days to read, which should not have happened. I should have been able to finish this within an hour, and it's like, ugh. So then I was like, maybe I should shift gears to something I think will be good. So then I read Julie and Julia because it's the memoir that was directly adapted to one of my favorite movies of all time. And this one was pretty solid. I really enjoy Julie Powell as like a storyteller. I was really sad to find out that she passed away really recently after I'd finished this book. I also think that at the time that she wrote this, she was incredibly jarring as a narrator, and a lot of the non-linear storytelling works, but also a lot of it just doesn't. Then I read The Salt Grows Heavy, which was really disappointing. And this was 3 out of 5. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I thought I would. This one gets so much hype for like the beautiful way that it's written. It's very dark gothic fairy tale setting of this murderous siren who destroyed a whole kingdom with her mermaid siren children, and she goes on this journey with like a plague doctor. It's dark, it's creepy, it's romantic, and the language of it is really beautiful, very flowery, but then the language is also just like so incoherent at times. Like I was reading it and I was like, okay, the author kept a thesaurus strapped to their body the entire time they wrote this. So much drama held in the way that sentences are constructed, in a way that works sometimes, and again, just doesn't work, I think, most of the time. And like, here's the thing, is the concept really compelling and interesting? Yes. Is the relationship between this siren and this plague doctor super, super intriguing? Also, yes. But I couldn't get into it. This also took me way too long to finish. I think this was like a 4 or 5 hour audiobook, and it took me like a week to complete because I had to keep like replaying portions. I was zoning out. I just like was not I could not for the life of me get invested in these characters or this world or this story. And I don't know how much of that was affected by my reading slump, but also just like, I don't know, I just kept getting annoyed with the language. It felt like too much at the most random times. I finally got around to finishing Pride and Platypus, which was honestly like my top read of this entire month. It's the story of Pride and Prejudice, but in a world where all of the men are cursed with an affliction that turns them into various animals under a full moon, and it's just like it's the original story of Pride and Prejudice, but if all of the men turn into these random animals, and Mr. Darcy is a platypus and he's very embarrassed about it. And I really enjoy the humor of it. I really enjoy the subplot that goes on in the footnotes between these editors that has nothing to do with the actual plot. I enjoy how nonsensical it all is and how the author manages to tie the characteristics and the traits of these animals to the men in this world, and how there's an added layer of like class and discrimination and elitism that goes on with the type of animal that you are. I think it's really clever in the way that it's done, because this could have gone really lazy very quickly, but I enjoy this a lot, and I'm excited to go through more of Jane Austen's work so that I could also refer to this author's whole series of nonsensical fantastical alterations of the original text. Then I closed out my month with all 9 books of the Shifter Speed Dating series. All 9 of these books were 1-star reads. I didn't enjoy any of them. The main thing keeping me through this series was trying to figure out this piece of world building of like why there's a shifter council that despises the relationship between human and shifters, why they're so against it, why there are laws put in place to prevent it. And it's never really explained beyond like one singular reference to respecting shifter heritage. There's zero legitimate explanation as to why the last 2 men in the series were turned into gingerbread man and like a donut cursed by witches. It's like it's lazy. I understand that this is unserious and for fun, but I also it's just so lazy. It's I why even bother at this point? And that was my month, which is so unfortunate. Luckily, my month now in May is turning around immediately. I've already read like 2 pretty really well done, really awesome, amazing books. But April, I don't know, it just feels really disrespectful to make my birth month, my month, a terrible reading month. This is the worst reading month I've had in maybe a year. Like I cannot recall any other month that was this bad, just bad. It was so bad and like bad in a way that was not fun.